There's been more than one time when we felt that they were kind of hoping we would die and go away.
To say that Keith and Lori Beach have shown the patience of Job might even be a bit of an understatement.
To date, we've been through 2 different sheriffs and 3 different prosecutors.
Their 36-year-old son from Auburn, Jeff Beach, was in Long Beach for a softball tournament on July 4th weekend in 2015 when he was brutally beaten. He was airlifted to Portland, where he died.
We just assumed that they would do their job and would want to solve this case. And so we just kind of sat back and let them have their space to get it done.
With no arrest in their son's murder, that patience is at an end.
You know, we're just wanting closure. We're honest people. We've told them we're honest people, and we just want to know what happened.
They both feel that the sheriff's office has misled them, lied to them, and even misplaced key evidence.
We've been asked by other law enforcement professionals during the time that we've been going through Jeff's case whether or not we believe that there's some incompetence or corruption going on. And from our perspective, maybe both.
Time and time again, he says their requests for information have been denied as they try to find out what happened and why.
If mistakes were made in the investigation, if delays were done, I mean, we're 7 years later. If people that hurt and killed Jeff have had 7 more years to hurt and kill other people.
Detectives have always believed the suspects involved live in the Vancouver, Washington area. Beacon Plumbing owner Bill Cahill even funded 4 Crime Stoppers billboards there, offering a $36,000 cash reward.
There might be people connected to the case that were involved that have changed their allegiance. They've made a decision that the people that they're hiding aren't really worth $36,000.
That's a lot of motivation, but to this point, any tips that came in have not panned out. Now, Keith and Lori say they feel like the victims.
To date, they have still refused, to date, to let Jeff's autopsy be released to family.
Keith says his son's murder is not a case of whodunit. He says he's been told that follow-up interviews with possible witnesses or others who have information haven't been completed. In an email, Pacific County Prosecutor Michael Rothman told me he understands the family's frustration. It remains an open and active investigation, and that the prosecutor's office is working with the sheriff's office to move the case forward. So if investigators are having a hard time getting people to talk to them, there is a solution. Cloyd Steiger worked as a homicide detective for the Seattle Police Department for 22 years. I first met him in 2012 when he investigated the murder of Patrick Fleming, a 70-year-old Navy veteran killed for his coin collection. Steiger caught the couple who murdered Fleming and estimates he's had an 85 to 90% solve rate during his career.
Under Washington state law, what tools do prosecutors have to be able to compel some testimony?
Well, there's a system set up in Washington called an inquiry judge proceeding. It's basically the closest thing the state of Washington has to a grand jury, but it's not in front of a jury, it's in front of an individual judge. And a prosecutor, it's a secret hearing. The prosecutor, just like a grand jury, you subpoena the witnesses to come in there. They're compelled, they're sworn in, compelled to answer. But in order for it to work, they have to be serious. If the people refuse to answer, or you know they're lying, you have to threaten them with arrest.
Steiger says the inquiry judge proceeding was used successfully in the conviction of Martin Pang, who set a fire that killed 4 firefighters in Seattle.
But maybe because they think they're so far into this that we say we can't do it now because we'll look bad. No, you won't. You'll look great. If you go now and say, "Well, we didn't probably do everything we could have before, but we're going to do it now," you will look fantastic.
Something for newly elected Pacific County Sheriff Daniel Garcia to consider when he takes office.
I feel like we're maybe getting another chance to get someone that wants to help us and realizes that we are not going to go away and we can find resources to help.
For his part, Keith has tried to remain hopeful, and while his optimism has faded, his determination has not.
I've been told several times by different law enforcement folks that if it was them, that if it was their son that was murdered the night that Jeff was murdered, that there's no way that they would be as patient as we have been, and they'd be pounding on people's desks for answers and action. We just want that justice, but we can't sit back anymore.
Much of their frustration is with the current sheriff, Robin Souvenir. Keith says he made commitment after commitment to them that Jeff Beach's murder was a priority, but didn't follow through, even though he said he wanted to be personally involved. We reached out to Sheriff Souvenir to hear his side and to ask for an update on the case, but have not heard back. As for the possibility of utilizing that inquiry judge proceeding, Pacific County Prosecutor Michael Rothman says he is considering using it to lock in the testimony of witnesses. He has assigned a deputy prosecutor to prepare the paperwork, but cautions it's not a panacea, and compelled testimony without corroboration is of very limited value. Plus, it can't be used to interview a suspect. If you have any information to help the Pacific County Sheriff's Department solve this case, please contact them or submit an anonymous tip to Crime Stoppers. We will continue to follow the progress of the case right here on the Spotlight.